Hey everyone, Joshua Hanlon here at BrickFair Virginia 2022, and I'm joined by a couple of builders who have worked on some fantastic Soviet and Finnish World War II layouts. So the snow one over there we'll have a separate video on. You can look in the description for that. But right now we're going to talk about this fantastic layout with this incredible looking train and all of this fantastic display here. So if you want to introduce yourself and then we'll dive in.
All right, Erik and Gunner Larson. We work on this as a collab together. We worked on the winter mock first. Once we finished that, we said, what else can we do? What else is really Finnish-centric that we could work that's unique? And we came up with the Finnish armored train, which still exists at the Karelia Armor Museum in Finland. We were able to take the actual measurements of that, research the train, and build a mock base around that. So the main focus is the train, which they used for anti-aircraft defense at trains and along the rail lines during the Second World War. It was from the Finnish Civil War, but they used it in the Second World War. I didn't know how I was going to model the train until the bonsai set came out, and I was actually able to get the curves to make the smokestack. The smokestack they actually brought under the train to dissipate the smoke so the Soviet bombers couldn't find the train, because they found they were getting recognized very quickly, and so they had to find a solution to that, and they ran the smoke under the train, so that's a super feature of that. The train was all World War I train, except for the gun car, was a captured car that they caught when they invaded Russia during Barbarossa. They captured that Russian car and added it to the armored train. So the rest of it was basically on anti-aircraft duties. The whole mock generally depicts the Russian invasion that started in coordination with D-Day in June of 1944. So the Soviets started the largest artillery bombardment up to that time in the history of the world on the Karelian Isthmus to punish the Finns for siding with the Germans and getting their territory back during Barbarossa. Then they launched their assault. This depicts a rail station about 5-6 miles from the front. The Finns had been trying to sue for peace after Stalingrad. They saw the war wasn't going their way. So they tried to get out, and the Russians said, no, no, no. So the Germans had heard of it. They weren't sending them any supplies, but once the Russians attacked, they agreed to send them Stugs, a German air division, and they also got in a bunch of Panzerfaust so the Finns could knock out the modern German tanks, because they really had nothing, the modern Russian tanks, they really had nothing for it. So this depicts the delivery of the Stugs to the Finns, the Lagus division. The Panzerfaust are being delivered over in the cars over there. But also we're showing all the Finnish population that was displaced. You know, almost 500,000 were displaced from Karelia, which was the breadbasket of Finland, and they were forced back into Finland by the Soviets, and it's still in Soviet hands today. So I wanted to show the human aspect of the war, as well as some of the things that go behind the scenes and not necessarily on the battle lines, which is what people really like to depict. This is kind of in preparation for what really would have happened. We also have a field hospital that's being made up, and they're using the train station there as a field hospital to take care of the wounded that are coming from the front lines. And you'll see a bunch of different things. The Lahdesvard. In Finland, they had to mobilize the entire population because it was such a small country. Everybody had to give their all, you know, all the way down to young boys. So the Lahdesvard, I had those made so that I could depict actually the female aspect of defending the country. They manned anti-aircraft stations, they did telegraph work, they did the field kitchens. Anything that they could do to send more of the Finnish soldiers to the front, they were there to help with. So that's kind of the thought and the idea behind what we did here, just trying to depict the Finnish effort in World War II.
Yeah, and I love how you've got the military aspect and the civilian aspect, because obviously so much of what happens in wars, the displaced civilians, and that's something that's overlooked a lot. But I think you've really captured that well using a lot of these, you know, civilian minifigures, as well as just kind of the animals and everything coming through, and just the stream of animals and people that would have been flowing through the country.
Absolutely, and we need to look to our history, and we can see some of those things are going on today around the world too, and not forget, you know, the human aspect of what goes into some of these military builds really needs to be told. And so I appreciate people seeing that side of it as well. I agree.
Now we'll take a break real quick to pop off some of the ceilings here, and then we'll take a look inside.
Okay. Pretty much this is a Finnish train station that has been turned into a field hospital. So we've put like injured guys in there and stuff. Like, these two guys are playing cards. We have the Ladas treating some guys with bandages. Ladas just looking around. Some guys sitting on the benches, and people out here in this truck loading people into the hospital. And up here we have the person that runs the train station, I would guess, his room, and he just has some stuff in there, his bed, stuff like that. And down in here we have the telegraph room and the typewriters. So There's typewriters and telegraphs and stuff there, which we made custom stickers for so that we would have the buttons on the typewriter. And yeah, and pretty much in here it's just a bathroom. Not much special in there. They got some propaganda. In here, this is where they get like tickets and stuff. There's another telegraph in there. And there's a stove back here next to this big fireplace, which we did some interesting greebling on.
Yeah, I love that, kind of creating the brick effect on there.
Yeah. And out here they have like a mailbox or whatever, more propaganda, stuff like that.
So this is a very unique color scheme, like on the floor there. Is this based on a real life building or just kind of a typical look from that era?
Okay, so for this station, actually during the Winter War, this station was destroyed by the Soviet Union. The Soviets rebuilt a station that the Finns destroyed when they attacked the Soviet Union, and there was a very, very large sugar processing plant from beet sugar very nearby. So this is an important railhead. So they rebuilt it very quickly. This would have been a brand new station, and that's a traditional Finnish color scheme during the 1930s and 1940s. So not many pictures of this exist. I saw one picture, and we did our absolute best to recreate it because it was only up for about a year and a half between the continuation war and the Soviet assault. So we did our best with what we had.
Fantastic work. Now we'll go behind and take a look at the train.
This is the light artillery car. We have like a machine gunner here, and we have an officer. And there's an engineer back here working on the car, and some guys man the AA guns. And then
see, I like how you kind of did the posability. The guy fell down in there, but sometimes you've got to disconnect the arms a little bit.
With the crazy arms.
So when you take off this, you can close up the hatches if you want for when they're just not doing stuff. So now the hatches are all closed and stuff. But so when you take off the roof, there is just a bunch of supplies in there and stuff. This guy's loading our shells into the AA gun. That guy's just spotting. And you got a water cooler over here. Just a bunch of supplies, some hand grenades. Guy taking a break in there. And then when we move on to the next car, this is the command car / kitchen car, which I have just a bunch of beds and stuff, so people would be sleeping in here. You got music and stuff.
A record player?
Yeah. Maps and Maxims, just stuff that they would need. Some woods for this stove here. Just boxes. This guy got chocolate over there. Just some random stuff. And then we move on.
On the actual train itself, it's a different look, and I showed the stack earlier. The Russians covered the Finns covered a KV-5 train engine with armor, so it was completely armor plated. That doesn't exist. If you go to see the actual train on the Perola Armor Museum website, you'll see a different engine. That is the engine with the armor taken off. So if you go and look, you'll see what the engine looked like underneath this armor, if you're interested.
So is this all like metal armor plating and painted with the camo patterns?
Armor plating, and then they camouflaged it, yes. They used two schemes, this 3-color scheme and like a German dazzle scheme, but they changed to this later in the war as they found the dazzle wasn't as effective.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he actually did all the interiors, so this is the engine of a KV-5, which is a little known Finnish engine.
So I have just some random train things in here. You got the boiler or whatever in there, just stuff like that. Got guys shoveling coal out, just a stool. There's guys taking breaks out here, just stuff like that. And then in this car, this is the Russian car, so they captured it. And there's just ammo in here, got more Maxims, and 2 guns on the top, beds, just stuff like that. And then the heavy artillery car, that has 2 anti-aircraft guns, 3 Maxims in the top, which they aren't using right now, but stuff like that. There's an interior, but it's very hard to get to, so yeah, just man and artillery, stuff like that. Then we got the 2 protection cars on the edges, which they would use to like scout out for like mines and stuff, like, yeah. And they have those little carts in there so that they can go out in front, see if there's any problems with the rail before the train moves along, stuff like that. Yeah.
Excellent work here. So I love seeing some unique, trains as well as just kind of the layout here in general being depicted, one thing that captured my attention was the train tracks kind of that run through here as well, and the way that you've added in those like loose elements to create that landscaping around there.
Yeah, always check your pick-a-brick walls because you never know what you're going to find. I went into the Tyson's Lego store, saw those, and I said, problem solved. There's the ballast, and I think it looks really good. I've seen a lot of ways people do actual Lego ballast, and I like the way that looks. It's a little different than you see it normally, so absolutely. You never know what you're going to find. If you look at Lego, you just look at it and you can try and see how can I use this, and that was one of the ways we were able to do that. So, thanks.
So you mentioned obviously the train you can still see in a museum, right? What was the overall kind of research like for this whole build?
So yeah, the train was easy. That's pretty well documented. I could find the information on the train because it's still in the museum, and I could call and talk to the curator. The finished rail cars, I had to look into railway history. I'm not a big historian as far as railway goes, but we tried to capture those cars. He researched the spotlight, made the searchlights. It was a German searchlight, and the Finns used French war booty from 1940. The Germans sent them trucks because they didn't have any trucks, so those are French trucks the Germans sent to the Finns to use. And then again, the station I had to kind of look up online and go through all the pictures, and I found one on a press tour that they were doing for the sugar mill, and we were able to see kind of a picture of that and duplicate that. So some of the things are not really well covered, but you just do your absolute best to figure it out. And a lot of the actual minifigs I had made myself through a printer because they just don't cover the Finnish soldiers. And there's an Estonian volunteer division in there, and there's all kinds of different soldiers from engineers to infantry that just needed to be made so I could tell the story. So that's basically what we did. And then we used regular Lego minifigures to do the actual civilians that are walking by. And there's a couple cookies in there, Easter eggs in there. You'll see a couple things if you look. We threw an Indiana Jones in there and a couple other things, and we put a Brickmania figure in there from Lando. So there's some different things in there as well.
Have you thought about like motorizing the train and doing more of like with it moving on the layout?
Absolutely thought about taking the train over to one of these big train mocks and running around, but I'm not sure we'd make the curves with some of these cars.
Difficult. It would be very difficult. It would be easy to fit in the power functions motor in the front, like where the engine and stuff are, but it wouldn't make the curves because you can't really make the wheels turn or whatever when the armored plates are blocking them. So.
Well, fantastic work. Thank you so much for taking us through the whole layout here.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for showing it.